graduated from college, I had a number of challenges, but none was more significant than the fact that I was very, very, very gay and very, very, very closeted. So I did what men did in my situation back in the day. I went into banking. And I lived the life. You know, corner office, three-piece suits, black Saab turbo, summer vacations in a gunquit, or a gunqueer, as I used to call it. Because the problem was back then that the role models for being gay were Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, was always kind of hard to tell with the dresses, Liberace, and the Village People. You know, although I do have to say probably everyone has a favorite Village person, you know, sort of like, you know, the construction worker, the sailor, the cowboy. They still remain quite popular. But even as a gay neophyte, I knew there was something not quite right about one of my first relationships. Our first date involved him kind of creeping up behind me and then flashing his big blue lights. Yes, this is how I met Officer Duncan. Officer Duncan was very tall with black wavy hair. Clearly someone who poured himself into his uniform every day to provide maximum tightness. Yeah. He had a mustache, sunglasses, seemed like a nice guy, but he also sort of seemed like he could have been a porn star. Because back in the 80s, I had a very hard time telling the difference between porn stars and regular people. Everyone to me looked like a porn star. But maybe that was because I was closeted and I was living in a fantasy world. Well, like everybody else who gets pulled over, I was terrified. You know, my heart's beating out of my chest, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, what'd I do? And then I think, well, this is an aside, but I think some roads are not really marked correctly at 25 miles an hour. I will just say that. I think 25 is an unrealistic speed on many roads. So I'm watching him in my side mirror swagger up to my window, and I thought, oh, you're kind of hot. And then I thought, no. Kevin, note to self, it is never hot. The person who is arresting you is never hot. Well, our second date was on the same road at the same speed. And no one was more surprised than me to see my Village person pull up behind me yet again. And I sort of thought, like, maybe he is interested in me. You know, maybe he's sort of like he's uncomfortable with his sexuality. I'm uncomfortable with my sexuality. He doesn't know how to bring it up. So this is his only way of talking to me. So we did our usual dance. And like our first date, he stuck me with the bill at the end of the date, which I thought, if you're trying to impress me, this is not that impressive. My third date was my mother came with us. We were going to church, and she likes to be on time. And so when my boyfriend pulled up behind me and I pulled over, my mother got out and said, I will walk the rest of the way to church because you know how much I don't like to be late, Kevin. But it was really my fourth date that sent me over the edge. I was like, oh my God, like, am I in an abusive relationship and I don't even know it? Like, is there some sort of like gay closeted profiling going on? And I could not believe that this was happening again. So the sheen on my fantasy was beginning to fade quite rapidly. 4 tickets later and 11 points, I lost my license for 3 months. Well, I sold the Saab, which I do think was a huge part of the problem. I'm not quite sure someone in their 20s, early 20s, should ever have a Saab turbo. And things went quite well until I was 29. And I happened to be traveling on a road that was not accurately marked for speed, in my opinion. And here comes old Blue Lights right behind me. And he pulls me over. I resisted saying, oh my God, did you miss me all these years later? He gave me the ticket. I was very quiet. And in my mind, I thought, I am done with this relationship with you. I can't do this anymore. I said, it's time to turn the tables. Instead of being the hunted, I'm going to become the hunter. We are going to traffic court. Now, it might be a surprise to you to know that I have actually never been to traffic court, given the number of moving violations that I've had. And I didn't know that if the officer doesn't show up at traffic court, they throw the case out. So I'm in the courtroom, scan. No Officer Duncan, no Officer Duncan. Would Kevin Gallagher please approach the bench? The judge read my charges. She acknowledged that the officer was not present. And she said, do you have anything to say for yourself? And I said, well, yes, Your Honor, actually, I do. I said, I am a very responsible driver. I'm a fairly responsible driver. And I said, I think there is something malevolent going on about the way Officer Duncan has been pursuing me for the last 6 years. And I would like the court to intervene in some way. And no sooner had I finished saying that I got a tap on the shoulder, and I turned around to face the smiling porn star himself. Well, at that point, the judge seemed, for some reason, I don't know, she just lost it. She started screaming, I can't believe you're taking up the court's time with this ridiculous thing and wasting taxpayers' money when you've been a multiple offender for years, blah, 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 blah. And then she goes on to say, if there are any other deplorables like Kevin Gallagher in the courtroom who are trying to get out of their tickets, you might as well leave right now. And half the courtroom got up and left. But I don't think they left because they were deplorables. I think they left because they could tell she was in a piss-poor mood that day, and they knew it wasn't going to go very well. That day, I did break up with Officer Duncan at traffic court, at the desk where you write the check. And I decided to set my sights on the cowboy a little bit. I came out, and that helped me move from fantasy to reality. I actually got a real boyfriend instead of a village person, and I learned how to follow the law. Thank you.